So we are holding on 115A1. We're a little behind. Good morning, Charlie. Good morning. We're up.
Morning.
Good morning. We're a little behind, so we're going to get started. We're on 115A1. Omar Ravina. That means the left-hand column, the bottom. So I just want to make the preface once again. First of all, we're learning once again for Refuah Shalema for my granddaughter Hinda Bracha Sinagolda, and for the continued recovery of Yosef Ben Sarah, our dear friend Jeff Karp, who thank God I spoke to yesterday. So that was very nice. Okay, to make the one little proviso, be patient with the Gemaras. It doesn't always sound like what we do, but as the Gemara works its way through it, we find what it is that we do at the Seder on the Seder night. So we're up to Amar Ravina towards about 6-7 lines from the top of 115A1, which is yesterday's daf, but we're going to catch up today. Amar Ravina, says Ravina, Amalei Ramishashi, B'nei Ram Nosson, Ramishashi, the son of Ram Nosson, told me, Hachi Amar Hillel Mishmei de Gemara. So said Hillel, not the Hillel that we're used to, who was a Tana. This is Hillel, who happened to have been an Amora, who came after the Churban Bayesheni, after the destruction of the Second Temple, and in the time of the Shas, of the Talmud, not in the time of the Mishnah. So said Hillel Mishmei de Gemara, in the name of tradition. A person should not make a sandwich of matzah and mora together and eat it as a sandwich. Mishum de Sviralon, because he holds matzah bisman hazeh midiyaraisa umora dirabonon. That matzah today is a midiyaraisa, is biblical, because even though there is no Korban Pesach, there's still a mutually exclusive mitzvah of be'erev toichlu matzahs. In the evening you shall eat matzahs, having nothing to do with the Korban Pesach. So that's a diaraisa. But morar today is universally a dirabonon. It is rabbinical because morar by itself is not a standalone mitzvah. It is connected to the Korban Pesach. Sli eish al matzahs u'merayimim yochlu. Matzahs with mora, you shall eat with it the Korban Pesach. So mora is completely connected to the Korban Pesach. So va'osi mora d'Rabbanan. So therefore the mora, which is only rabbinical, u'mevatalei lematzah d'oraisa, will come and nullify the matzah, which is a d'oraisa. Va'afilu l'man d'yom mitzvos. And even according to the Madhyama that holds that mitzvahs do not nullify one and the other, so each mitzvah is unique and you could do them together. We're holding 115A1, the right hand column.
Gavino.
But we started saying it, so we're now in the right hand corner. Okay, afilu l'mandi oma mitzvahs and the batle zu, even according to the mandiyama that says mitzvahs do not nullify one and the other when they're done together. Hani mili diaraisa b'diaraisa, d'rabbanan b'drabbanan. When it's like to like, when we're dealing with two biblical mitzvahs or two rabbinical mitzvahs. Avol diaraisa b'drabbanan. But in our case, with the mitzvah of matzah, the erev taichu matzahs, is still a biblical command. But morar, which is connected directly to the Korban Pesach, tzliyesh matzahs u'meroymim yochlu, kaya Korban Pesach, so morar is connected to Korban Pesach. Since today we don't have a Korban Pesach, so morar is only a d'Rabbanan. Avol d'oraisa, avol b'd'oraisa u'Rabbanan, asi d'Rabbanan u'matalei d'oraisa. So according to this Madhyama, we do not make the sandwich. So the first question the Gemara asks, "My Tana de Shamatle mitzvahs ein mevatle zu zu." Who is the Tana that you heard that mitzvahs do not nullify one or the other? Hillel who? Hillel the Tana, not Hillel the Amora that we started with. Hillel the Tana was around while the Beis Hamikdash was still standing in the time of the Mishnah. What does he say? The Tanya, and we should recognize this. Amru Olav al Hillel, they said on Hillel, that he was the first when he established the idea of a sandwich, that the Korban Pesach and the matzah and the maror were eaten together in a sandwich. Shenemar al matzos u'meroimim yochlu. So we see that Hillel was not concerned that one would go ahead and be mevatel and would nullify the taste of another. Amar Rav Yochanan cholkin alav chaverim shel Hillel. His chaverim argued with him. The Tanya, because we learned Yachol Yeharcha b'vas achas va'olkin kederach shehillel olkin. I might have thought that you can make a wraparound sandwich, a lafal, okay, of Pesach, matzah, and maror. And as you know, the Svardim's matzahs are sort of like lafas. You can make a lafal, Pesach, matzah, and maror, right, and eat it together and like that. Talmud loimad. So therefore the pasuk says, and we're on 115:8-2. Therefore the pasuk says, the pasuk Talmud loimad al matzah sumeroimrim yochlu afilu, and I'm underlining the word afilu, okay, which means even zebipnei atzmoy, zebipnei atzmoy, that even here they should be eaten separately. Each one is mutually exclusive. The matzah should be eaten as matzah, maror as maror, the Korban Pesach as Korban Pesach, not together. On this, Maskep Rav Ashi, if that's the case, that they're supposed to all be eaten mutually exclusive, even, if you think about the language of even, means really they're allowed to be eaten together. But even if you eat it separately, you're good to go. So what are you coming to tell me? Elam Rav Ashi. Hi, Tana. This Tana. Okay, the Tana does not argue on the wall. Hi, Tana, Hachi Katani. I might have thought you do not fulfill your obligation of eating the Korban Pesach. If you eat them I might have thought you're only capable of being mekayim the mitzvah if you make the sandwich, if you wrap the sandwich of Pesach, matzah, and maror together. Talmud loymar al matzah sumeroimrim yochlu afilu, even if you go ahead zebipnei atzmoy, the zebipnei atzmoy, each one is eaten individually. It's okay, you yaitza. Just as an aside, from here comes the great machlokes. If I can eat each piece individually, does that mean that each piece by itself is a mitzvah, a part and parcel, a three-part mitzvah of the Korban Pesach? There's the meat of the Korban Pesach, there's the matzah, and there's the maror. Each one is eaten mutually exclusive, which would seem to say that each one is a mitzvah by itself. Why do I care? Because even Bisman Hazeh, where I don't eat the Korban Pesach because we don't have a Beis Hamikdash, still I would eat a kazayis matzah and a kazayis maror as a din of the Korban Pesach, because each piece is mutually exclusive, which would then mean that the mitzvah of Korban Pesach, with regard to its matzah and maror components, is yes a diaraisa Bisman Hazeh. Is yes a diaraisa Bisman Hazeh. And there is a shita like that. Rav Moshe Feinstein in his Sefer Divros Moshe spends about 50 pages going through this thing. Is in fact the matzah and the maror I still have individual components, or in reality it's one mitzvah with three components, and even if I get it individually, it doesn't mean that I have a mitzvah diaraisa if I'm missing one of the components. So that's just an aside. Anyways, says the Gemara Baita, and we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines from the bottom. Very studiously, you'll notice that we do not have a psak din over here. Therefore, says the Gemara, and now we come to what we do today. what do we do today? Mevorech al achilas matzah v'ochel. We go ahead and make a bracha al achilas matzah and we eat. By the way, this is the pshat why the guy leading the seder has to eat 2 kizesim, because he makes a bracha hamoitzi lechem min haaretz. So on the mitzvah of hamoitzi, you have to eat a shir achila. How much is that? A kizayis. Then he makes a bracha al achilas matzah. That's a separate mitzvah. So he has to eat a kizayis for that too.
How much matzah is a kizayis?
A half of a hand matzah is a kizayis. So that's why the guy leading the seder has to eat 2 kizesim. That means he has to eat 1 full-sized hand matzah within 9 minutes, because he is being mekayim the hamoitzi and the matzah, which is a mitzvah by itself. Okay, weiter. Mevorech al achilas matzah v'ochel, v'hoda mevorech al achilas mora v'ochel. He makes al achilas mora v'ochel, and now we already know that the ikar mora is the lettuce, not the horseradish. V'hoda ochel matzah, v'hoda ochel matzah. And then he eats, and v'hoda ochel matzah v'chosa b'hadei adodi b'loi bracha. And then he goes ahead and makes the sandwich of matzah together with the lettuce, the mora wrapped into it. Obviously, we don't have a covered Pesach today, so you do 2 out of the 3, matzah and mora together without a bracha, because I already made a bracha al achilas matzah and al achilas mora, and I say zeicher l'midash ke'elel, and that's what we do today. So first we handle the matzah, then we handle the mora, and then we bring it all together in a sandwich. Okay. As you know, we back to karpas for a minute. Charlie, you had a question?
Well, just a quickie. Okay. It says zeichel. We're doing it zeichel mikdash kehilel, but we're really not doing it kehilel.
Right, because we're missing.
We're not using a bracha.
Right, we're not making a bracha.
Okay, so it's a little bit of a.
And that's why we use the words zeicher. You picked up on something very important, Charlie. When do we ever see the word that we do something as a remembrance, not as kishita? It's a remembrance, because it's sort of what we're doing the night of Pesach. Is we're sort of taking everybody's shitas and these gemaras and we're throwing it into a blender and we're making it work, because we're not exactly sure how we're supposed to handle things. Very good. In fact, Charlie, you can bring that up at the Seder. The word zeicher is very unique. We don't usually do anything as a remembrance, which means not as a mitzvah, not even. So what is it? It's simply a remembrance of what Hillel did, right? Because the great Hillel did it, so we're remembering and we're doing it too. But it's unique. It's unique in the halachis of what we do throughout the year. It's the only thing that we do specifically as a zeicher, as a remembrance. Okay. Says the Gemara. Here's the situation. The situation is, after Kadesh, we go to Karpas. But what do we do before Karpas? We wash our hands. Why are we washing our hands? The answer is because Midrabana, they said the hands are all over the place. Hands are always all over the place. So they were worried about Tumas Yodayim, which of course does not exist on a biblical level, because in a biblical level you can't simply have one part of your body Tomei and the rest of it not. But the Rabbanan said everybody's hands are like a sheni. And then they went further. And they said, since a sheni, if it touches teruma, can make the teruma into a shalishi. If you remember back in what we learned 2 months ago, teruma goes all the way down to a shlishi, gets matam all the way down to a 3rd level. Since a second level could make it into a third level, they went further. They made another gezerah that not only are your hands considered automatically a sheni, but if it touches mashke, if it touches liquids, the liquids become a rishon, become a first level, and therefore if the first level touches a second level of chulin, of regular unconsecrated stuff, even the chulin will become tummy. So here we have a problem. What do we do with the karpas, everybody? What do we do with the karpas? We dip the karpas into salt water. Now, I know everybody here probably uses a fork to dip it in. In fact, you see from this Gemara, you're supposed to use your hands. You're actually supposed to pick up the potato and dip it into the salt water because you've had to wash your hands. The reason why you wash your hands is because of Tumas Yadayim. You wash your hands, you take off the tummy, therefore you can touch the food that is now being dipped into a liquid. That's the logic of the urchatz, of the washing of the hands. And this is the halacha. Kol she'tevile b'mashke, anything that's being dipped into liquids, tzarich netilas yadayim, needs to be mitav, the hands need to be washed. Because midrabanan, those hands are a sheni, and if it touches liquids, the liquids become a rishon. So therefore we don't want tamadik stuff. So you got to wash your hands on a rabbinical level. And the reason for that is because you're not supposed to be using a fork or a spoon. You're supposed to actually pick it up and put it with your hands into the karpas. Okay? So now if you want to start controversy around your table.
Into the
well, right now, Daddy, we don't know that. We didn't mention the charosis yet. We're going to mention that in a minute.
You're dipping it into the charosis.
That's not what the Gemara says. Where's the Gemara say charosis? It doesn't say it. You're saying it. The Gemara says
the charosis has wine in it.
Well, Daddy, that's Amid Bays. That's Amid Bays. Right now, the Gemara didn't say that. The Gemara says, no, kol shetfila b'mashka tzarech netilas yadayim. Anything that's dumped into liquids requires netilas yadayim. That's not just karpas. That's anything you pick up with your hands and you're dipping it into a sauce, into anything, requires netilas yadayim because of netilas yadayim.
Right.
The pashtas, we know what do we dip it into? Salt water. Patience. Now we're going to see. From here we learn. Now we're going to on the days. Hi chosa. This lettuce. We're now on Kuftes Vav days 115b1. Sorich shakuse v'charaisis. Now we're getting up to things. Needs to be immersed in charaisis, in the charaisis. Why? Mishum kappa, because of kappa. What is kappa? Essentially, that's the quote-unquote the poison that's in the lettuce. As you know, there's a certain bitter aftertaste to lettuce, and that poison is not great for you, and therefore all vegetables seem to have this problem as the Gemara continues to feel, and so different charaisis softens it up. Right?
It's the acidity.
Now, this one
Kapha is the acidity.
The acidity.
That's in the
acidity, that's it. Now, I want to make a point. However, as my father and I just was talking about that we don't dip our charaisis, we don't dip our karpas into charaisis. What do we dip it into? Salt water. But you know the answer now, everybody. Because we do not use lettuce for karpas, carrots, radishes, potatoes, and celery. We use other things because of the shita in the Gemara before. We're not getting involved in the machlokes with the brachas and all the stuff. So we dafka do not use lettuce. So since we don't use lettuce, we only use other vegetables. since we use other vegetables, we don't have to dip it into charoises because we don't have to get rid of the kappa, the acid. So it says the Gemara, but now this guy is using lettuce. The karpa, so he has to dip it into the charoises to get rid of the kappa. The isal kedata because if it should come into your mind that lettuce does not need to be fully immersed, only a bit immersed. Why do I have to wash the hands? He didn't touch the liquid. This tells us, by the way, that you're supposed to be using a fork. You're supposed to be using your hands to dip. Because if you use the fork, you're not touching the liquid. Elamai, you're supposed to be touching the liquid. So use your hands. Anyways, so this is how I love it. Says the Gemara, the truth is, you don't need complete immersion of the piece of lettuce. The kappa merecha maisa, because the kappa, the acidity, dies simply from the smell, as it were, of the charosis. You put some charosis on, the smell permeates the lettuce and kills the acidity. And a lamalina till die. But if in that case, why do I require my hand washing? The answer is because you'll probably come to immerse the whole lettuce anyways. The nature of people are that once you start dipping, you dip completely. And the proof of it is that when you take your potato or your radish and you dip it into the salt water, what do? You dip it completely, even though you don't have to. All you have to do is dip a corner with salt water and you're good to go, right? Because why do we dip in the first place? Only that the kids should ask, why are you doing it? Why is this night different than all other nights? The Omer Papa says, Papa, a person should not leave mora in charosis for an extended time. So this that some people like charosis so much and they pile it on and all that, that's not really what you're supposed to be doing. Anyways, a person should not leave mora in the charosis for an extended time. Dilma agav chalya v'tavlin, because maybe the sweetness of the spices, the mixture of the wine and the walnuts and the cinnamon and everything else that goes into it, right? The sweetness of the spices, will go ahead and nullify the bitterness of the mara. And with regard to mara, you need the taste. Because the whole purpose of mara, bitter, is to taste bitter. Veleka, there isn't. So, Rav Chisda took Rabbana Ukva by the hand and watched him to the front. Rav Chisda was usually the one who gave the shear, and Rav Chisda honored Rabbana Ukva and had him go up and give the shear. And he said, "Not al yoda b'tibul rishain." One washes his hands by urchatz and what he called, and he washes, and noitul yodav by netilas yadayim, right? The not yoda b'tibul b'sheni, and he washes his hand by the second dipping, i.e., by the morar and charoises, which means that he really washes his hand for hamoitzi, right? Because the real question is, why do you have to wash your hand for hamoitzi? You already washed your hands by karpas. The answer, and the Gemara is going to talk about it here. Amur Rabbanan Kamei de Rav Papa. Came Rabbanan and said before Rav Papa, Alma Itma, this ruling that you have to wash your hands twice is only by the regular year, throughout the regular year, when a person normally does not do two dippings. He eats vegetables once and he dips once. He doesn't do it twice. Because I might have thought, with regard to the two dippings of karpas and mora, why do I need to wash my hands twice? I already washed my hands once. So therefore, since this is strange, and you do it twice, you got to wash your hands twice. Just the opposite. The ruling was said dafka over here, where you have two dippings of karpas and mora. Because we're in a normal situation when you wash your hands at the beginning of a meal and you eat your vegetables, normally tray tibble. What do I need to wash my hands twice? I already washed it. Says the Gemara, am I Elamite? So
What
what
do
is
you
our
need?
Papa
What do you
saying?
need 2 dippings?
Right.
You don't need
No,
2
during the
dippings.
week, you don't do 2 dippings. Normally you only do 1 bit dipping.
Right.
So Amma Elamai Hoki Itma. This is why is the thing about the 2 dippings of the Seder night. Nitilas Yitradayim Shrei Zimni Lomali. Why is it necessary to wash my hands twice? Once I washed it already. 115b2. He already washed his hands once. The question is better than the answer. The reality is once I wash my hands, that's it. You'll notice in our meals, how many times do we wash our hands normally during the year? Once. We're touching things throughout the meal. The Torah says once I wash my hands and I clean my hand from tumah, I don't worry about it anymore. I don't constantly have a basin with water and keep washing my hands after every course. So Amri, they said in defense of Rav Papa, since after Karpas, what do you say? You say Magid, and you say the first part of Hallel, Dilma Asuche Achse Ledate. Maybe he will become distracted during that hour-long interval between Karpas and Maror, right? And therefore he will touch something along the way, his hands that was unclean, that's contaminated, and therefore he will have contaminated his house because of Mesiach Das. He took his mind off of it. So therefore you've got to wash it a second time, according to that Papa. You know what the problem with this is? If you have this din of Mesiach Das, then how come we don't make a Boire Pri Adama on Maror? We should say that the Boire Pri Adama that I made on Karpas, even if I had in mind the Maror, I still have a problem. I could be Mesiach Das when I say Magid and I say Hallel. Who's going to remember an hour later that the Boire Pri Adama that I said by Karpas goes on Maror? This question is a big problem. This question is actually a huge problem in halacha, and there's no simple solution. So I'm not even at this point, I'm not even going to try to give a thing, because the truth of the matter is, if you're going to rely on the Mesiach Das to say I got to wash my hands twice, if I got to wash my hands twice because of Mesiach Das, because I washed it over there by Karpas, I'm not going to remember my hands during the next hour or so while I'm doing Agoda and Hallel, then why don't we have the same problem with regard to Boire Pri Adama? And you're going to answer me, well, Tumas Yadayim is only rabbinical in nature. Well, so is Brachas. Boire Pri Adama is also only rabbinical in nature. So how come one rabbinical in nature I'm worried about Mesiach Das, and another rabbinical in nature I'm not worried about? So right now the question is better than any answer I can give you. That's the truth.
But with the second,
yeah,
the dipping is also you make hamotzi.
yes.
I said when you do
So
the
we
second
go ahead, but it's
bracha, we
very
do it
clear.
right when we do hamotzi.
Right, but we're saying the truth is I don't have to wash my hands to make that hamotzi. The truth is,
okay.
Charlie, I wash my hands at the beginning of the meal.
Okay, I got it.
By orchatz. I wash my hands by orchatz. So that should be good enough for my hamotzi. Right, why do we wash our hands for hamotzi? All year long, why do we wash our hands for hamotzi? Because we don't want to touch bread with contaminated hands. We already handled it. So what's going on? So now we're coming to the idea of Mesiach Das. It's going to get forgotten. I'm worrying about my hands over an hour-long period. Well, then why aren't I worried about the bracha of Boire Pri Adama? And I don't have a good answer. I got to be honest. Right now, I don't have a good answer. Anyways, Amar Rava says, Rava, Bora Matzah. If one takes the matzah and he crumples it up, and he slings it into his mouth, and he just simply swallows it without tasting. Okay, the din is what? Yotza. So chas v'shalom al tiftach, somebody caught corona and lost his sense of taste, he could still be yotza matzah, because matzah is totally in eating, not in tasting. You don't have to taste the matzah. You can sling it down and swallow it down without tasting. However, if you swallow oro, yotza, you're not yotza. Because mora, you have to taste the bitterness. Bola matzah mora, if you swallow matzah and mora together, yedei matzah yotza, yedei mora lo yotza. You fulfill matzah, mora no. Because according to this mandiyama, matzah you don't have to taste, you just have to eat it. So the taste of the mora, even if it nullifies the taste of the matzah, it doesn't matter. But the matzah, but mora is no good, because you're slinging it down. If you wrap them together, the English says, the article says, embast and swallow it. In other words, you put some sort of coating around it to make it easier to eat. No. If you got something interrupting it directly, it's lo yotza. Okay? It's not yotza. Okay? Give me a second. And Tosfos explains, because, by the way, he says like this, when the two of them are together, when you swallow both down, each one remains individual. It's when you chew them together. Their tastes become together. And that becomes problematic. Amar Rav Shimi bar Ashi. Rav Shimi bar Ashi says like this. Okay? We're now talking about the kara, the Pesach plate, the Seder plate. Matzah is placed before each and every member of the participants of the Seder. Mora lifnei kol echad v'echad. Mora. Charoises lifnei kol echad v'echad. Charoises are put before everyone. The ein oy shulchan, and we remove the shulchan. Remember, in those days they each all had individual trays, so they removed the table. Today, what we do is cover it up. We cover the matzahs on the kara, on the plate. The ein kain is hashulchan elu lifnei mi she'omer haggadah. But we remove the table only from the one who's leading the show, who's leading the haggadah. Rav Huna Amar kula nami lifnei mi she'omer haggadah. In fact, we only have a kara in front of the person who's leading the Seder. The Hilchasa to Rav Huna, and the halacha is like Rav Huna 15b3, and the halacha is like Rav Huna. So in fact, that's what we do today. The halacha is we have one Seder plate on the table. Not everybody has to get their own individual matzahs. Not everybody has to get anything individual. There is one Seder plate in front of the guy running the show. Now, Lama Oikun is a shulchan. Why do we remove the shulchan? So the children should notice and ask. Abaya Yosef Kamei the Rabba. Abaya, when he was a child, was sitting in front of Rabba. They saw that they were removing the tray table from in front of Rabba. Abaye said to them, we haven't yet eaten. Why are you removing the trays? Great, Abaya, you just handled Manishtana. We can move on to Avodah Mayinu. In other words, Tosfos explains, it doesn't mean Abaya started asking these questions, and Rabba kept nudging him. What else do you see that's strange? And by doing that, Abaya, as a child, asked all four questions of the Manishtana, and Rabba said, wonderful, you're such a smart kid, and let me give you the answer. The answer is Avodah Mayinu L'Parad Mitzrayim. By the way, that it tells you that when we are opening and shutting the matzah on the kara, on the Seder plate, we open up the curtain, we close the curtain. If there are children there, if you have grandchildren there, make a big deal about it. Say, we're playing hide and seek with the matzahs. Now it's closed. Now it's open. Now it's closed. Now it's open. Because the entire purpose of it is simply so that the children shall ask. Kedei sheyishalu satinoikis, that kedei sheyaktiru tinoikis v'yishalu, so the children should know this. So the truth is, the Seder has to be a playful place. It has to be a place where the kids are coming to ask questions, are excited, who see things different. The differences should be pointed out in a way, not by saying, look, we do something different, but get the kids to notice the difference. That is the entire purpose of what we're going on over here, because that is the way people learn. Says the Gemara, Omar Shmuel. We've got about 10 minutes here.
They don't ask anything.
What?
Today they don't ask anything because they know everything from the yeshiva.
Right, but you say,
By the
so
time they
you
come, they
go
know
in,
everything.
right, so but Daddy, you say, I don't know. Why does the rule book tell me to open and shut? Why am I digging so much?
They
go the other
tell
way.
you.
They tell you. They think you're the big Amoritz. Don't worry about it. Let them tell you, not the other way. That's exactly the point. Exactly. You put the finger on the point. You have to act like the clown. You got to act like the clown. I don't know what's going on over here. Right? And these little 7-year-olds are telling you how to run your Seder. That's the way it's supposed to be. Amar Shmuel, Lechem Oini. On the regarding matzah, it says Lechem Oini, Lechem Sha'oinin Alov Devarim. Bread upon which we say, we declare, we're oinin many things. Tanya Namehoku. Lechem Oini, Lechem Sha'oinin Alov Devarim Harbe. Bread in which we say many things. Davar Acher, another reason. Lechem Oini, Oni Ksiv. It means poor man's bread. In other words, Ma Oni Shadaki Perusa, just like an Oni eats from broken pieces of bread. We're on today's daf, Kufta Zayin Amid Aleph, Afkan Perusa, to over here. You should also deal with the broken matzah. So what do we do by Yachatz? We break the matzah, right? The bigger half goes for the Afrikaimen, the smaller half goes for the thing. And when we make the brachis of Hamoitz and the Alachilas matzah, you take all three matzahs, the broken matzah, the Kohen and the Yisrael, and the middle Levi broken matzah, all three. You need the Kohen and the Yisrael for Lechem Mishnah, but you need the broken matzah for Lechem Oini. And also, when it gets to Rabbi Gamliel, as we're going to see later on, when you get to Rabbi Gamliel, the three things. This matzah. What's this matzah? You pick up the broken matzah and you say, this broken matzah, why are we eating it? Davar Acher, another reason, Ma darke shalani, the derech of the Oni. Who masik the ishtay oifa, he doesn't have enough heating wood. So when he heats up the oven, his wife immediately bakes. They bake stuff immediately so that the oven shouldn't cool down, and then they wouldn't have any more fuel to heat up the oven. Afkanami, who masik v'ishtay people, and that's what we do today. We heat up the oven and we immediately stick in the matzahs. We said we put on the kara plate, on the Pesach plate, charaisis, even though it's not a mitzvah. If it's not a mitzvah, why do they bring it? Because of the acidity of the maror. The antidote for the acidity of lettuce is a radish. Kappa de chamo karti. The antidote for the kappa of radish is leek. Na kappa de karti chamime. And the antidote for the kappa of leek is hot water. And in fact, kappa de kule chamime. In fact, the kappa of all vegetables, the acidity of all vegetables, is pushed off with hot water. Adahachi, nami hachi. In the meantime, while one is waiting for the water to heat up, he should say, kappa de charino loch, u'l'shei b'nosach, u'l'nasa kalosach. I remember you and your 7 daughters and your 8 daughters-in-laws. And no, I have no idea what this is talking about. Okay, weiter. Rabbi Elazar ben Tzadok Omer mitzvah. The Charaisis is a mitzvah. My mitzvah. What's the mitzvah? Rabbi Levi Omer Zeichel Tapuach. It's a remember of the apple tree because you put in apples into the Charaisis. The Rashbam explains because it's from the Gemara Masechta Saita that the Yolodos, remember the babies used to go under the mothers used to go under the apple trees in Mitzrayim and give birth quickly to the babies, and so therefore they didn't have to rely on Chas v'Shalom get the babies killed by Mitzrayim, and that's why in Shir Hashirim it says Tachas HaTapuach Orosayich. Okay, under the Tapuach is your praise. What do you call it? Under the apple tree I rose you. There was your people born. Take a look in number 8 in the Art Scroll, which gives that explanation. It explains that Rashbam, which is found about 20 lines down. Okay, Rabbi Yochanan Omer Zeicher L'Tit. It's a remembrance for the clay, which is the main reason that we know. Zeicher L'Tit. Give me a second over here. I just lost the place. Amar Abaya Hilkach. Therefore, tzarich l'kayu v'tzarich l'samuche. One should make the charaisis tart, and one should make it thick. L'kayu is zeicher l'tapuach. Make it tart like an apple. V'tzarich l'samuche zeicher l'tit, and make it thick like the bricks. Tani Kabbalah did like the cement, the clay. Tani Kabbalah did Rabbi Yochanan. Tablin zeicher l'teben. Spices that are added to the charaisis are a remembrance for the straw. Charaisis zeicher l'tit. The charaisis itself is a remembrance for the clay. Amar Rabbi Elazar ben Tzadok says, "Well, Tzadok, so I would say the window vendors, the people who were selling from outside the windows, right? They were selling goods. They would say, "Bayu tebu lochem taben l'mitzvah." Come and take for yourself the spices for the mitzvah of charaisis. And since they called it mitzvah, we see that charaisis is a mitzvah. Now, next Mishnah. Let's try to get down to the end of the Yom in about 2 minutes here. They mixed and poured for him a second cup of wine. The Kana ben Shoyel Ovid. And here the son asks the father, if the ben is a she'ena yedeya lishol, if the son is a son who does not know how to ask, Ovid melamdoi, his father teaches him. We're on 116a2. Mom, what does he teach him? Why is this night different from all other nights? All kind of greens. On all other nights we ate roasted, stewed, or cooked meat. Everything is only roasted, i.e. the carbon Pesach. On all other nights we dipped or we did not dip greens once. The Gemara is going to get into how you're supposed to say this line. And we say, of course, ein onu makbilin. We do not, right? Amen. Tonight, 2 nights. The feet, you'll notice, one manishtana is missing. Haseba. It doesn't show up. And the answer is because according to this man, the Yoma Haseba is not a mitzvah. It's tied, it's included in the mitzvah of matzah. If you don't do haseba, if you miyasiv, if you eat the matzah without haseba, according to this man the Yoma, you're not yoitza matzah. The mitzvah of haseba is included in the question of matzah. Okay, that's again Pilpul, Reb Chaim, etc. Anyways, weiter. Lefi dati shel ben Ovid melamdoi, according to the son's level of intelligence, he should teach him. Maskil beginus, we begin with the disgrace, umisayim b'shvach, and we end with the glory, right? Okay, with Derish Maybe we always end with our tikva, with the hope. And we kayim b'shvach, and when we finish with glory. The Derish, Arami Oived Obri, the Arami sought to destroy my father. Ad Shenichbot Kol Parsha Kula, until we finish the whole Parsha over there, the Navi, etc. Chochem B'noi Shalu. If the son is intelligent, right, to ask the Manishtan a question, the son asks him. Then Ein Chochem Ishtoi Sha'altoi, his wife asks him. We don't have time today, but you'll notice the son is called a Chacham, not a Tzaddik. You'll notice it's Chacham Rasha, Tam Sheni Yedei Lishol, not Tzaddik Rasha. Okay? There's a lot to be said on that.
He's too young to be a tzaddik.
Well, and there's more than, yeah, it's even more than that, because each child is an individual thing. He's also too young to be a Rasha, Daddy. So therefore, why is he called a Rasha but not a tzaddik? Everybody's not called a tzaddik. The imrav who shoyel la'atzmot. You never say that. Never label a child. Never label a child. Ishto shalta, his wife asks him. The imrav who shoyel la'atzmot. But if not, he asks for himself, because everything has to be the derech shaila and tshuva. Even two Talmidei Chachamim who know all the laws of Pesach, we're on 116.8.3, heading to the bottom Mishnah, Sha'alim Zelazeh must ask one another. And again, the reason is because we're planting within ourselves and bitochen of this night. And the best way to plant is by conversation, and give and take, which is uniquely Jewish, and it's uniquely tied to Pesach. On this, on all of the nights we did once. Tonight we did twice. Obviously we switched the language, and now you're going to see why. Rabbi says, is it a must that we on every night that we must dip during the year? No, it's not. I don't have to dip the rest of the year. Okay? We're not obligated to dip even once. But on this night we dip twice. What can we do for the children to be considered? Is it an obligation for the children? We're taking out the word chayova because the kids at the end of the day are not chayiv. Generally, we do not dip at all throughout the year. And that, of course, is the language that we have today. Okay, now we're finishing up. My genus, what's the genus? That. Thank you, Teresa. Have a wonderful day. Yes, thank you. Yes. Good, thank you. Rab, thank you so much. That's just the nurse. Thank you. Rab, originally our ancestors served, were idol worshippers. We were slaves. Two things. Number one, the Gemara doesn't explain why does Rav and Shmuel hold the way they hold. And number two, why is it that we hold both? You notice we say Avodah Mayinu, and we also say Metchila Oivdei Avodah Zarah. Where do you see that we paskin in Shas like both? So in fact, it's what I'm speaking about this Pesach. A continuation of a speech I started 2 years ago that got interrupted. And when we have time, I will try to give a little explanation of this. It's fascinating to understand what's going on with Rav and Shmuel. Amalei Rav Nachman l'Doru Abdei. Rav Nachman said to Doru, his slave, Abdei Mapik le'Mor l'Cheres. In the case of a slave whose master sets him free, v'yod le'Kaspa d'Dahaba, and gives him silver and gold, my boy what should he say to the master? Amalei, Doru said to Rav Nachman, Boyulu, do you shakuye. He should thank him and praise him. Amalei, patotran loima manishtana. You have exempted us from manishtana. The dedukte Seifrim takes out this line because it doesn't make any sense. Just because the slave answered him, this is what you should praise him. She doesn't explain patotran loima manishtana. So skip out that line. Amalei, Rav Nachman said to Dori, in that case, Posach ba'omar abodim ayinu. We can now begin to say we were slaves, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes us out with the thing. Very good. We're up to the bottom Mishnah, and it begins here with a lot more. Tomorrow we're going to fly through on the days, but tomorrow's Kuf Yud Zayin, which is a lot of Agadah, and it's really beautiful Gemara.